Good morning. Welcome to the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency podcast. So would you put that down, please? Civil Rights and You, the show that focuses on federal, state, and local civil rights and human rights issues and how they impact your daily life. My name is Charles Bryson, Director, Civil Rights Enforcement Agency, under the auspices of Mayor Lyda Cruson, and your host. Playing as the intro theme, as always, is Ronnie Jordan's The Antidote. And this podcast can be seen on Facebook Live and recorded at mycitymymusic.com. Today, we unfortunately have Kevin McKinney to discuss SLACO and upcoming events that he might have. Welcome, Kevin. How are you?
I'm glad to be here, Charles. Fortunately, I'm blessed to be able to be here, and the St. Louis Association of Community Organizations are always happy to be in your cheerful presence.
This will be a long day. So let's go back. For those who don't know, what is SLACO? St. Louis Association of Community Organizations?
Yeah, we're the umbrella organization for neighborhood associations. They've come together. Right now, our membership's comprised of 31 different neighborhood organizations or community organizations. They've come together under one umbrella. And we all work together to improve our neighborhoods, to improve our standard of living, and it's an opportunity for people to come together and exchange ideas and issues and work together to try to solve some of those from a macro perspective as well as a micro perspective.
Now, these are all city neighborhoods, or do you have anyone in the county?
Right now, we have board spots for 3 different county spots. We have what we call the North County, Mid County, and South County. And when we have groups from those areas that want to join, they can come in. The only outside St. Louis group that we have right now is from our Metro East area. We have one neighborhood association that makes up that's part of the Metro East, and they are the Concerned Citizens of the 12th Precinct. They're in East St. Louis. They joined us a little more than a year ago, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
And was that strategic on your part or their part to sort of increase the size of
No, I think
your area?
Our board had decided a couple of years ago that we wanted to open up our organization to outside of St. Louis City groups. So the East St. Louis group came on. They've been working to improve their neighborhood, and they wanted to get some information and share some information with us. So they joined. We're also working with a couple groups in Delwood that have shown some interest in trying to get their neighborhood organizations up and going. And so, we're open to working with any and everybody that's out there. You don't have to necessarily be a member of SLACO to get our assistance, but once we help you, we hope that you'll join our membership. But yeah, we've been working now with probably about 5 different neighborhoods to help strengthen them, and hopefully they'll be coming on within the next year or so.
Now, SLACO's been around for a long time. Has the sort of what you do on a daily basis, has that changed much over the years?
SLACO's been around for 40 years. We're celebrating our 41st year this year, the 19th, 2019. SLACO really hadn't changed that much. It's become more of a organization that's run strictly by its membership. We work with our members, and we try to do things that the membership wants to see done. I would say when you go back to the very beginning of SLACO, the first thing that SLACO did was organize a neighborhood against a schlock landlord. There was a landlord that had a building in the visitation area, and there was trash and debris and things like that all around it. And they came to Father Kleba talking about what can we do with this landlord. He never comes around, and our building looks bad, and the surrounding area looks bad. So they found out who he was, and they gathered up all the trash, and they took it to his house and dumped it on his yard, knocked on the door, and said, "This is what we're living with." And that kind of took SLACO off. SLACO started going from there, going into neighborhoods and organizing and working with people who were having troubles. And generally, these neighborhood organizations, when they start up, they're over some particular type of issue, be it crime, be it not picking up your garbage, not picking up the trash, whatever the issue of that particular neighborhood happens to be. They come together and they start working on it, and we try to help them implement plans and ideas that we've seen work in other neighborhoods to get them going. And then sometimes where we find out a lot of people, they like to come together over a particular issue. Once that issue's accomplished, then they move on. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can keep people involved in the neighborhood association, not just issue oriented, but those that come out to help a particular issue, they'll come back to help another issue as well. So you're always going to have a little core group of 10 or 15, and then you try to get some people to work on different committees to help deal with particular issues. So it's kind of a around and around and around and around you go.
It reminds me, when you talk about that tonight is National Night Out, in that there will be hundreds of opportunities, I would assume, over the region for folks to get involved. But that's not what you're doing.
Yeah,
but National Night Out is really an important night to know your neighbors and take stock of where you are as a community or as a neighborhood.
Yeah, we've done a little advertising for several neighborhoods that are involved in the National Night Out, and we think it's imperative that neighborhoods come together and participate in that. That's kind of an initiative. You'll have 4 or 5 people that'll help organize that, and then you might not see them for another 6 to 8 months, and then some other issue will come up and they'll come back out, and that's good. You always got to have those people who want to get involved, but you got to have those backbones that are going to go to those meetings, and they're going to entertain the electeds. They're going to come out and talk with the police. They're going to talk with the fire department. They work with the street department. So you got to always have those folks. But yeah, it's National Night Out is a great thing, and it's a great opportunity to meet neighbors. I know on a lot of my Facebook posts, I always say, speak to a neighbor, meet a neighbor, shake a neighbor's hand, say hello, get to know who your neighbors are. They're not going to harm you, and in fact, they'll probably end up helping you somewhere down the road.
Yeah, you've been a director for a little while, haven't you?
Yeah, going on. I was just thinking about that. Going on 3.5 years now. Yeah, it's been exciting.
From the day that you accepted the job and turned the key into the slot and opened the door, was it what you thought it was going to be?
Exactly. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I figured I had been around SLACO several different opportunities, had several times to go to some of their conferences. I had been the president of the Shaw Neighborhood Improvement Association back in 2008, and we'd had some workings with SLACO. I'd known what SLACO was all about, and to become the executive director of SLACO, it was exactly what I thought it would be. What we're trying to emphasize with our members is you tell me what you want to do, and then we'll try to figure out a way to make that happen. It's really driven from the bottom up, if you will, from our members, as opposed to me going in trying to tell people what we're going to do. We like to talk to people and figure out what they want to get done, and then we try to figure out a way to make that happen. And that leads us into one of our major fundraisers that we're having, which is...
You want to do that now, or I'll give you 2 slices. Go ahead.
Yeah, Blues Off of Grand. We're having a blues concert November the 9th, 2019 at the 3610 Grandel Square. It's going to be quite an event. We're going to start out at the Dark Room, which is part of the Grandel, and then we're going into the actual Grandel, and we'll have a ton of performers starting at 6 p.m. going all the way up to 10:30. Marsha Evans and the Coalition will be our end of the event at 10:30, and then we're going to have people such as the Little Dylan Blues Band, Big Mike Aguirre, and the Blue City All-Stars with Renee Smith, the Blue Lotus Review with Roland Johnson, Miss High C, Bob Kamowski, and Gene Jackson, Brian Curran and Eric McSfadden, the Fab Phoners. They kicked the event off. So for $40, you got an opportunity to hear a lot of talent. And I know St. Louis is a little spoiled. We can go to some of these free concerts, or we can go to restaurants and hear some good music. But here you're helping out a good cause, which is SLACO, and you're getting to support and hear some of St. Louis's finest blues musicians.
So when I get back to the office, I'll make sure I post that on my Facebook page.
Great.
And we'll make it available to everyone. But this does give people a lot of opportunity to network with people across the city, the region.
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt.
Just as important it is to make sure that SLACO's coffers are full.
Yeah,
to do that networking, as you say, who's your neighbor? Well, your neighbor not only is the person next to you and around the corner from you, but the person in the city or the county.
That's
as well.
right. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the masters of ceremony is I call him Mr. Blues himself, Lonzo Townsend. He will be our MC for that event. Yeah, music, it's like everything else. Unlike everything else, music and food, they bring everybody together. So you can come out, hear some good music, talk to some of your friends, meet some new people. There will be an opportunity for a raffle. We have one of the greatest original printmakers out there in Kababi Bayak. He's doing a blues commemorative painting for us, and we're gonna raffle that off, and there'll also be opportunities to put in orders for some prints of that original. And I would very much like to mention our sponsors, which are the St. Louis American, Enterprise Bank and Trust, Commerce Bank, Broadway Oyster Bar, the St. Louis Blues Society, and the internationally known St. Louis Blues Museum. So we're looking to have a lot of fun, and I think I've tagged it so far several different times, but I'm calling it, we're going to pitch a wang dang doodle all night long.
I don't know that I've heard that one lately, but anyway, so let's talk a little bit more about CREA. I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit more about SLACO. How many staff? How
SLACO,
many people
we have 3 people that are working for us. We have we're not a big organization. We've used some Vistas in the past. We've had some volunteers that do work for us. Right now, I've got a development gentleman that's on contract to do some development work for us. I've got a development associate that's doing some in-house work for us. And then we have a project manager for our Neighborhoods United for Change Sisterhood. So we're kind of grant-driven, fundraiser-driven to be able to provide staff, and but I don't do it alone. If it wasn't for the other 3 people, we wouldn't get hardly any of these things done. So it's a cooperative effort. And our board president, Sunday Whiteside, she represents us pretty much out all over the community, and other board members are out and about. So, I'm generally in the office trying to get work done, and they're out going to different meetings and representing us out there in the public. And every now and then I get a chance to go to a few meetings, but I'm back there trying to get some work done.
Now, I know we'll talk about some of the things that SLACO's been involved in, but the one that comes to mind is the whole issue of vacant and abandoned buildings, and whether it's the Finance 15 or it's the vacancy collaborative, which
Right.
I would argue SLACO had a large part in starting.
Yeah.
You guys have really been at the forefront of that issue for the last several years.
Yeah, it goes back to probably 2015 at one of our conferences that came out as an issue that our neighbors and the community wanted to talk about. And so our board of directors decided that it would be an issue that they would undertake. And they brought probably, I want to say, Charles, about 45 people came to a meeting to talk about and start trying to address how we deal with vacancy. And at that very same time, Mayor Slay was just getting ready to not run again, and he had put together a group of people to start talking about it, and we were part of that group. And when he decided not to run again, it kind of fell off. We kept running with the ball, trying to put things together, but we knew that we couldn't do it alone, that it would actually take some efforts from the city to come together to work on it. And so From our SLACO vacancy committee, the collaborative came out of that, and the collaborative seems to be running with the ball really hard. They've got over 300 people involved in dealing with these vacancy issues. The cities has started some work in regards to some demolition. They've also started trying to do some rehabs. We were able to assist with the establishment of the Prop NS money, which will be used to stabilize some of the vacant houses and get them ready for the market. So it's more, the whole vacancy issue was more than SLACO could deal with itself. So we kind of passed the ball off to some professionals that, as well as keeping in touch with some of the volunteers. So it's really making a big difference. We were able to come up with the finest 15, and that was from the one of our LRA vacancy subcommittees. And they took the finest 15 idea, El Torion Hawkins and Angela Drake, Alvin Willis and Lily Clay. They took the finest 15 to a new height. I mean, now there are other groups that are trying to do that same type of thing, and neighborhood associations are trying to do that as well. And basically, we went in, looked at the LRA inventory in different neighborhoods, picked out 15 of the nicest looking buildings that they had that wouldn't take a lot of money to rehab, and take people through the LRA process. And then we brought in, people that did weatherization, people that talked about home and insurance. We brought contractors in, banks, so that people could say, well, I like this house. I want to get this house. Let's go through the LRA process. Let's get set up. And I think they've sold probably 30 houses or more through the finest 15. Did more advertising for LRA houses than LRA could do themselves. And it's been a win-win for the city of St. Louis, for LRA, as well as the neighborhoods. And so it's been really good. And in fact, it's been so good, so well received, that several of our people are attending a conference in Atlanta this week to explain to other people throughout the United States how the finest 15 works and what it's all about. So you got Angela Drake and El Torion Hawkins leading the charge there, and Sunday Whiteside is there as she's the chairman of the Vacancy Collaborative. So you've got some people from the collaborative that are there talking about how that works, and so we're real proud of St. Louis standing up and trying to deal with the vacancy issue, and that all came from SLACO. That's kind of how we did the Neighborhoods United for Change. That came out of, like, right after Mike Brown got murdered. People came together and started talking about what can we do and what should be done, and it was at one of our conferences, and people say, as opposed to us divided, we need to try to come together. And so we kind of use SLACO as Switzerland, and we bring people together to, it's a safe space to talk and discuss. And so we did the Neighborhoods United for Change. You were gracious through CREA to establish some funding to get us started. Then we were able to get some CDA money to get it going. And so now we're taking neighborhoods who never would have known each other or met each other and never really stepped outside of those neighborhoods to meet with each other, to tour with each other, and to actually work with each other. So it's all from the bottom up. From the bottom up, those ideas came from the conference, and we were able to get some funding to make it work. And so now this is our third year, and we're doing 15 tours this year. Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to the finest 15 because that, to me, really not put SLACO on the map, but SLACO was seen in a different light, that it wasn't just a neighborhood community organization where everybody comes together and feels good. This was a policy and a program matter, because without SLACO's help and gathering people together in a neutral space to have, because you had people who were anti demolition, you had people who were gentrification, you had people who were environmentalists, you had people all along the spectrum but you all were able to kind of bring everybody together in a way that made sense for the community around, let's pick 15 houses and begin to repopulate the neighborhoods with those people. So in some respects, everybody talks about people leaving St. Louis. You actually have people, whether they are in St. Louis now and are not homeowners, but you all have now 30 houses. You have homeowners. You have people who may have come outside the neighborhood, inside the neighborhood, or moved to a better place inside the neighborhood. So to some degree, SLACO really, from both a policy and a practice matter, you've done things that everybody keeps talking about, but no one actually did.
Yeah, and we kind of felt like, it's always good about talking the talk, and it's always good about, these are things that we need to do. Okay, so then we want to walk the walk. We want to figure out, these are things that people say need to be done. Let's go do it. So people talk about LRA and they talk about the process. We said, well, this is what we have to work with. Let's figure out the process. Let's make it easy for people to understand the process. Meanwhile, let's talk to LRA and figure out how we can make the process even simpler and easier, and let's start explaining it to people, which LRA didn't have the ability to necessarily do. We took volunteers and said, hey, come together, let us show you some houses, and let us walk you through the process. And once you hear and see that one guy, El Torian Hawkins, for example, has purchased like 3 of those LRA homes, fixed them up, gifted one to his mom, his brother, himself, and he's made his neighborhood better there in Walnut Park West. So we wanted to walk people through the process, show them what it's all about, make it easy for them, and once they see that it's really not a difficult deal to do, when you find the right home that didn't need a ton of work, that you could still get for a relatively inexpensive price, and then fix it up for less than $10,000 to get a occupancy permit, you're good to go. So one of the things...
Have you all helped change some of the way that LRA does business because of your interaction with them?
Definitely. Yeah, I think I think LRA has changed some of the ways that they do business because of the success that we've had with the Finest 15. I think they realize too that advertising these homes is really a big deal. So they're trying to bring in some people that can actually work the program, advertise the program, because it's really they're a 1 or 2 or 3 person organization themselves. So they're trying to increase their capacity. The one big thing I will tell you from what we've seen in this whole vacancy issue is that we don't look at it necessarily as an economic development project, which it is, but we look at it as a safety issue, a safety issue that our kids have to deal with. I mean, when our kids have to walk to school and walk by these vacant homes, that's a heck of a way to start the morning. When they get off the bus and they've got to come back home, or when they walk back home and they've got to walk back by these vacant homes, that's a heck of a way to get ready to start studying, because you're scared to go by these buildings. So we look at it as a safety issue, just as people now are talking about a health issue for violence. It's a health issue for our kids, a mental health issue for our kids to deal with these vacant homes. So when people start talking about it in that light, I think even the city became more aware of, we got to do something to protect our babies. And people are out there just talking about, it just started coming up. I think 1 or 2 people ran into some trouble in some of those houses, homeless, whatever it happens to be. we want to get those things boarded up. We want to get it done right. We want to bring people in to fix them up. We want to do development there. So it's a mental health issue for our kids, and it's a mental health issue for our community to grow up, to live, to play next to those vacant homes. It's not good for our psyche. It's not good for the people that live there in the neighborhood. It's not good for people when you bring people around to see what's going on. They see these vacant homes. So I applaud the city for actually taking a stand and trying to do something about it. And I'm glad that we as SLACO were able to jump in there and make some differences. Now, not only do we work with the Vacancy Collaborative to kind of get it going, but the Prop NS to help get that going, to stimulate some
and
building.
What was Prop NS?
Prop NS was a vote to take some of your property tax money that you spend and actually stabilize some of these LRA homes that. So for example, if you saw an LRA home and Prop NS has put maybe 10 or 15,000 into some tuck pointing, some stabilization, maybe that's less money you have to borrow as a home buyer when you decide to go into the bank, because the bank says, you say I need $100,000. The bank says it's only worth 50 grand. Now you go in there and look at the house, and you don't need 100 grand. You only need 80 grand or 70 grand. And some of these banks are stretching, making that difference happen. It's kind of hard to make a $50,000 leap, but to make a $20,000 leap is a little easier. So we think it's going to spur some development, and we think that it's a great opportunity for new home buyers, renters to get involved in the home buying process. The Prop NS is going to be a great thing for the city of St. Louis. Where I was going with the whole vacancy deal is that not only did we talk the talk and explain what the issues are, then we started trying to solve some of the issues, and now SLACO has actually got a grant through CDA to do some actual repairs and maintenance on a couple of homes in Baden. So we have a neighborhood association in Baden, but we're not only just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. We're going to rehab a couple of homes and get them ready for sale, and then we're going to go back to CDA to try to get some more money to do that as well.
Now, so the homes are taken down, demolition. Is SLACO or any part of SLACO part in the discussion about what to do with that land?
We are working as neighborhood organizations to bring them in to the conversation. We think that SLACO's position is that development, redevelopment, you need to hear from the community. You need to engage the community. So when any of these projects are put on the board, we want our neighborhoods to be sitting in on the meetings. We want our neighborhood organizations to be helping to make the decisions. We want the city to engage them. And so we think that we have the strength in our organizations, our local neighborhood organizations, to be able to help drive that conversation. And if they're not, then SLACO will step in to see what's going on.
So I want to talk about so I cut you off from the Neighbors United for Change. So let's go back there, and then I want to talk about how you've placed SLACO sort of in the middle of a lot of other conversations. I believe the state health department has come to you all, and a number of groups have come and said, can you help us? Can you help facilitate us having conversations with the community? So we'll put that there. Neighbors United for Change. You had 15. Yeah, tours.
We still have several tours that we're going to. We are online to do 15 tours this year, and we've done right at 11. So we've got 4 more to go. The summertime heat really got us. On Saturdays, a couple of groups said, we just can't roll. Okay. We can't do this, so we had to put them back and push it. So it pushed everything back a little bit. We'll be going right up until November this year. Then at the end of November, we'll bring everybody together to have our big community meeting like we've done in the past. We'll do that. But yeah, it's been we kind of adopted the sisterhood model this time, where not only did you meet and eat and greet and talk and discuss issues on a Saturday, but you were able to get back together with the organization throughout the year. And we had several groups that have been able to do that, and it's been real successful. I know Tower Grove, for example. I know Tower Grove South and Baden, the revitalization of Baden Association, they came together. They just had their tour on the 21st of September, but they had been attending each other's meetings since like back in March and April. Bevo, they came together with a group, and they worked extremely well together. Everybody didn't really fall in love with it, but it was an opportunity to do that. Everybody is still enamored with the tours. They love going into each other's neighborhood. They love talking about the positives and the negatives of their neighborhoods.
And they do both in a very relaxed manner.
That's
it's almost
right.
it's almost as if people get on the bus and somewhere between the front door and the seat, you're automatically friends with somebody, and all the chitter chatter back and forth when I was on the bus was absolutely amazing. How two people who literally had nothing in common before they got on the bus,
right,
all of a sudden had everything in common.
Right, and I think it's opening up new perspectives. This year, we were able to include more youth into the program. We became a part of the St. Louis Youth Jobs Program, as well as Safe and Thriving with Marcel Scaife and those guys. We were able to include more youth in the Neighborhoods United for Change program, and they were able to offer their takes on neighborhoods. And the people who were from different neighborhoods really appreciated hearing what the young people had to say. So that was a little different than in the past. Still, in all, everybody would like to maybe do this thing, for 5 or 6 hours, because the conversations really get going. And when you get there,
I know you fought that.
Yeah, when you get there at 8 o'clock, and 12:30 comes, they want to keep going to 1:30 and 2:30, and say, guys, you're going to burn out each other. And but it's really been good. It's really been productive. They came together. We did a part of the Hodemont Track suburban cleanup. We included that as one of our programs for Neighborhoods United for Change. We had over 28 neighborhoods represented at that cleanup. We had neighbors who gave up their time on the south side to come to the north side that probably never would have done that without being a part of Neighborhoods United for Change. We had neighbors, next door neighbors even from the north side, who gave up their Saturdays to try to make this place look better. So people are actually coming together, and people really want to come together. They just need a little catalyst to get them there, and that's what we kind of serve as, is a catalyst.
Well, not only a catalyst, but a safe environment.
Yeah,
there's a trust that SLACO has built with all of those groups, and so they trust that I'm going to be taken care of no matter what neighborhood I go to. And I would argue that's both African Americans who've never been on the south side or in a specific neighborhood, as well as whites who've never been north of pick a Del Mar, pick whatever, other than driving through, because I remember those conversations.
Right.
So there's a safety there.
There's a safety that's hard to beat.
People enjoy.
It's hard to beat. Now, when you start talking about, a lot of these other organizations coming to SLACO, I think what people look at SLACO, I mean, when you talk about a group that has membership of over 30 neighborhoods, even if let's just ballpark that at 300 people. I mean, that's just at a minimum. When you got 10 people in each neighborhood, that's 300. So we know we're more than 300, but let's just say 300. And you have people who are talking about health issues. You have people that are talking about mental health issues. You have people that are talking about law enforcement. You have people that are talking about court systems. That's 300 people that they can discuss and engage and talk with. Okay, so they come to us and they say, hey, listen, we'd like to have this community engagement. Would you help facilitate it? And we say, yeah, that's right down our alley. We want to expose our members and our membership neighborhoods to as much information as they care to entertain. So, yeah, they've been coming to us, and we've been working. We've been co-sponsoring some events. We've had some events that people have to pay to. Some events have been free. What we're finding out more and more is that with the positive outcomes that we've received from vacancy work, vacancy initiative, vacancy collaborative, Finest 15, Prop NS, when you start talking about some of the wins that we've had with Neighborhoods United for Change, people want to be a part of, and people want to hear what other people have to say. So we've been able to really get some good community engagement issues going, and it's been working out really well. The one thing that I tell you is kind of been a sleeper for us that people really don't really know a lot about is that we've got a tremendous after school program that we run right there in the West End. And it has been a fantastic after school program, as well as our summer camp. We've been running, this is the second summer that we've done the summer camp, and we've probably got 30 kids that are coming through there every day from like 8 to 4:30, and then we've got a couple that will stay until 6:30 or till 6. It's been cutting into some of the use of our building, but what we've really adopted is, the kids are our youth, man. I mean, the youth, kids, youth, young people, they're our future. And I mean, you can talk about how things are today and what I need to do to make things better now, but we got to work with our kids so that we've got a future. They are the future. So we got to train them up to be able to continue doing things that I want to do now. They got to deal with that 20 years from now, so.
And there are kids that I would assume are in the neighborhood and may not go to any other facility or program. There's a trust factor there because of the link that you all have been there, the same building for all those years.
Yeah.
And so there's a trust factor there that's been built in. And so they may not go across the street to go to any place else. So you're right there with them.
Right there with them. And we've got a fantastic music program. We're advertising, we're hoping that our Blues Off Grand November 9th event, that we're going to be able to highlight 5 or 6 or 7 of our kids that are in our music program. We're going to have them do a little concert for 5 or 10 minutes as well. So we're working toward that as we speak. But yeah, we got a nice little music program that we were able to get some funding from Horizon Housing Foundation. They pretty much sponsor our summer camp, and they purchased some pianos for us, and so we're giving music lessons. We're hoping to expand through Regional Arts Commission. We got a grant from them, but we're hoping to expand a little art program in there as well, because they're not doing this kind of stuff in the public schools. These kids are not exposed to art, nor are they exposed to music in the public school. So we got to do it in our space. And so we're going to people, asking them for money, and we're actually using the money appropriately. We're putting it to good use. So we feel real good about it. I would challenge some of our corporate sponsors and friends there that an investment in SLACO is a good return on your investment. I mean, you're doing something that will help kids, young people, and then you're also doing something that's helping the neighborhoods, and you want those neighborhoods to be strong so people can purchase your products and use your services, So it's a good investment with SLACO. It's pretty safe.
Now, when currently, previous, current, and future, are there specific issues that you yourself are interested in being involved in as executive director and say, well, I wish SLACO, knowing the configuration, but man, this is an issue that we ought to think about tackling.
Well, we kind of try to do things from the ground up with our members, but I have a strong feeling that our April conference that we'll be having April 4th this year in 2020 be held at Vashon this year. We're teaming up with Invest STL. We're still working on a sponsorship with Invest STL to put on our conference at Vashon High School. We're trying to bring this thing to the neighborhood, if you will. But something that's really touched me, like I think it's touched a lot of people here in St. Louis, is, the death of our children. We're losing kids, at a rate that's unfathomable. And so I think we've got to, I think our conference is going to key in specifically on children, family services. We're still going to do the, neighborhood organizing 101 kind of classes about SLACO and that kind of thing, but we're going to get a heavy dose of children and family services, and it's not necessarily the protection of the youth, but it's what can we do for the 25-year-olds, the 30-year-olds that are raising these kids? What can we do for them? They got problems. The babies, they obviously have problems, but the parents of the babies got problems. So we gotta deal with that. We got grandparents raising babies. We got to deal with that.
We have young grandparents raising babies.
Young grandparents raising babies. So it's a. I think we're going to get heavily. I think I could see 2020 being heavily charged with youth and family service issues. How can we get involved more with the violence prevention programs that Safe and Thrive and Marcel Scaife, those guys are working on? We were funded this year to do some work, and we did some good things with the kids there. But it's going to be more youth oriented, more family oriented. I think that's my heart is leaning that way, because it's like we're helpless with the killing of our kids. Our kids are just getting annihilated. And it doesn't make any sense. The people are cleaning guns in the room where kids are. Like, okay, I know you might feel like you need a gun for your protection, but when you're going to deal with that gun, take it somewhere else. Right. The kids don't need to be around that, because you're going to do something. You might drop it or whatever. We got to start thinking, even though we might feel like we need this protection, we got to be able to use the protection appropriately, So, I'm pretty much anti, obviously, guns and that kind of thing, but we gotta really work with our youth, and so that's one area that I think SLACO's going to get involved in. I hope, I'm talking to some different people about that, and the other thing that SLACO's really got to work on, we got to work on our membership, empowering our members more, building up. For example, I got a neighborhood association that, they got like 5 members.
I might know who that is.
They do things. They got 5 members.
Right.
We got to figure out what can we do to we got to spend some time. We got to do some canvassing. We got to get out and knock on doors. We got to open people's eyes to the fact that they need to become a part of this association.
Can you be a member of the association without being a neighborhood association?
Oh yeah, you can have
either as an individual or a business or whatever.
A part of SLACO?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have supporter opportunities. Yeah, sure enough. Yeah, you can be. We have neighborhood associations that are doing great things, but they only have 1 or 2 people that are doing that. So we've got to assist them. We've got to strengthen our members. We got to do some really strong, hardcore lifting to get our members stronger. So that's going to be an emphasis for 2020. We're going to go back to that strategic plan, and let's take a look at that. I think sometimes we get so caught up in what's going on like right now, and it's very important. But we as a organization have to get back to our strategic plan, and we kind of have a document that's flexible and movable, and sometimes you might have to put this particular issue on hold to deal with another issue. But we got to go back to our plan. It's a working document, and make sure that we're getting things accomplished that we set out to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Where are we on that list of things? That kind of thing.
Do you see SLACO at one point was very, very political, and I mean large P, like election political. I don't see you all being that, but I do see the small P political. I'm going to guess that SLACO is a 501c3 and therefore it cannot lobby, but you've got a tremendous arm there to do some work, and whether that's around that use of that land, because I had some groups in there talking about farming and food deserts, etc.
Right.
And I know that is something that a lot of folks would say, yeah, if SLACO could help us, we'd be interested in using some of that land for farming. Farming in the sense of really growing crops, gardening, farming, whatever you want to call it. But there might be other issues that SLACO presents itself to, and by that I mean the body. But I think the big thing is the voice of SLACO and what that means in those communities as well as perhaps City Hall, etc.
Yeah, we made a concerted effort to not be a big P as far as promoting and endorsing candidates. I mean, part of our 501c3, obviously, you can't be a political group supporting a particular candidate. We can get involved with issues. And so what we really want to try to position ourselves to be is candidates can come in and talk to SLACO. That doesn't mean that we're going to endorse them. Issues, particular propositions, amendments, those kind of things, people can come in and voice opinions about them, for or against. SLACO does have the ability to endorse particular issues and support issues, but we're really trying to be more of an education part, educating people about candidates, and then also educating people about the issues, and then we will come out and support issues. But we stay, because what happens so much is, St. Louis is a big, small town, but just as soon as you start endorsing candidates, then you're trying to get CDA money, or you're trying to get some grant. Anybody's
money, and people try and cut you off.
Yeah, then people cut us off. Yeah, you supported John Doe or Jane Doe. They're not my particular candidate. No, we're not giving you no money.
Sure.
So you can't cut your nose off to spite your face. And plus, our 501c3 just won't allow it. Now, there's conversations about the 501c4, which will allow us to actually raise money as a not-for-profit. And so we're talking about trying to get that particular thing done as well.
Well, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a couple minutes left. I hear you have an event coming up, and
and one other event. I'm
going to make you pay me for some of these.
One other thing I will tell you though is that we are going to be active in the census, the counting of the census.
I am glad to hear that, because to me that is literally the most important thing on the horizon is the upcoming 2020
census.
Census.
We're coming up with a program called We Count, and we're hoping that we can secure some financing, some funding to be able to advertise and promote We Count in areas of underserved neighborhoods, and so we're going to make an effort to really get involved in the census and to help promote being counted. We count, so we're going to be a part of that. I tell you, Charles, man, it's fundraising, event planning. Those are always some of the fun things to do. And I've done several conferences. We had a 40th anniversary that went off in September, which was extremely well attended. We've done some great things, but I would say that and I've been doing this type of work, for a long time. The first time I've ever put on a blues concert, and it has been.
Did you go listen to everybody before you selected them?
I had already listened to them. I knew I knew who I wanted. I mean, I've seen all these people before. I knew exactly who I wanted. Obviously, there's the big headliner out there that everybody wants, but they were booked up and couldn't come. But each one of these people who are performing would be a headliner in their own right. They could put on their own show. Now, there are people in the blues that cover the blues scene know all these people. People outside the blues scene, trust me, these are performers that will give you 30 to 45 minutes of hard blues. It's going to be a great show. It's November the 9th, 2019, Blues Off Grand, a little over a month from now. We're going to be starting the show at the Dark Room at the Grandale, and then we'll go to the Grandale, which is right in the same building. You're going to start off with the Fab Phoners at 6 p.m. Now, this is Sharon. Sharon used to play bass for Benny Smith and the Urban Blues Express. She's now teamed up with her husband to do a little duo work. They do fantastic blues works. In fact, she was part of the Big Buddies Blues Festival this year. And then at 10:30, Marsha Evans and the Coalition will be wrapping things up there in the Dark Room. Oh, a long time. They jam. Yeah. Then you got the Grandale at 7 p.m. Brian Curran and Eric McSfadden, a great duo. They do fantastic work. Then you got 7:45, the Little Dylan Blues Band. These guys are the up-and-coming stars here in St. Louis. If you want to see the future of the blues in St. Louis, Little Dylan Blues Band is that group. And the old reliable, the big-time, big hitter is Big Mike Aguirre and the Blue City All-Stars with Renee Smith singing with them. And then at 9:15, the Blue Lotus Review with Roland Johnson, need I say more, Miss High C, Bob Kamoski, and the effervescent Gene Jackson. These folk are the consummate performers. They could put on their own show themselves. You're going to hear all this music, have all this good time for $40, okay? I got $1 carrying charge that we have to charge on our tickets that we're selling. I got tickets at SLACO. You can get them for $41. General admission, sit anywhere you want. First come, first serve, $41. You can go Metro Tix and you can buy them there as well. But check us out at our website, www.slaco-mo.org. You can get the tickets at the website. You can go to Metro Tix and get tickets. It's going to be a great event. We've got sponsors, the St. Louis American, Enterprise Bank and Trust, Commerce Bank, Broadway Oyster Bar, Kababi Bayak Originals. He's going to have a painting that we're going to raffle off of a blues performer. You've got the National Blues Museum, as well as the Blues Society, St. Louis Blues Society. Now, I tell you, Charles, this is one of those can't-miss events. I mean, they only come around every now and then, a can't-miss event. This is a can't-miss event that I think everybody's going to have a good time. And we've already pinned it. We're going to pitch a Wang Dang Doodle all night long.
He can't say that on my show. I refuse. So that's November 9th from 6 to
10:30.
6 to 10:30 at the basically in Grandale Square.
At Grandale Square, at the Grandale and the Dark Room.
And I'm going to make a suggestion that if someone cannot make it, that there might be other ways to contribute to SLACO.
Yes.
And
go to our website.
Go to the website. And what was the website again?
www.slaco, that's SLACO, -mo.org. That's -mo.org. www.slaco-mo.org.
And you also have a lot of other information on there about the things that you do, et cetera.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So if people want to get involved from a neighborhood or community level, we'd appreciate that. Kevin, thank you as always. You have one more thing?
Yeah, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Not only are we working in the communities, but come November the 14th, we will have our 3rd annual Town and Gown mini summit, creating resilient neighborhoods. This is an event that's co-sponsored by Harris Stowe State University, St. Louis University, University of Missouri St. Louis, and Washington University. The summit is meant to explore new ways in which communities and universities can work together to improve St. Louis neighborhoods. That'll be November 14th, our 3rd annual Town and Gown mini summit. It will be held at El Monstero, which is 3050 Olive. That's the former Berea Presbyterian Church. And this is free. Starts at 1 and goes to 5.
The 14th is what day? Is that a Saturday?
That's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday from 1 to 5.
From 1 to 5.
Okay. Kevin, as always, thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it. I look forward to the great work that SLACO is doing. And I would encourage everyone to go to the website and see what you all are doing and see how you can take part, because this is really, if you step outside of your neighborhood or your community, this is a way to get involved that is both local to you and citywide and region-wide. So, Kevin, thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles.